In the heart of New York City, in the shadows of hip-hop royalty, was a man with no record deals, no stage presence, and no interviews, but mention his name, and the room went quiet. Anthony "Wolf" Jones was more than a bodyguard. He was a myth, a protector, and a feared street soldier. His loyalty to Sean "Diddy" Combs was legendary. His silence was unbreakable. Until one night in Atlanta, an altercation with Big Meech and the Black Mafia family changed everything. This is the story of Anthony "Wolf" Jones, the big bad wolf of Bad Boy Records. Anthony Jones was born on February 20, 1965, in the Bronx, New York. His mother, Barbara, worked as a teacher, and his father, well, he was never around. His childhood was shaped by the harsh realities of 1980s New York City streets, where he developed the physical presence and street savvy that would define his later career. He earned the nickname Wolf early on because of his distinctive widow's peak, reminiscent of the fictional character Eddie Wolfgang Munster from the popular 60s show The Munsters. But to those who knew him best, the name went deeper. He was calm under pressure, loyal to the people he protected, and lethal when pushed. Raised in the Valley section of the Bronx, Wolf and his childhood friends started their own crew. They called themselves the Valley Mob. Barbara Jones tried to raise Wolf and his siblings the best that she could. Despite being involved in criminal activities, Wolf took his education serious. He graduated from Harry S. Truman High School in 1983 and later received his bachelor's degree from the Bronx Community College. Being the oldest of his siblings, Wolf knew he had to provide for his family. He started working for the United States Parcel Service in the late 1980s and even worked as a security guard on the weekends. But the streets kept calling, and the quick cash was too irresistible to turn down. In 1991, Wolf was convicted of attempted murder and criminal possession of a weapon, serving less than 2 years before being paroled in 1993. This established his reputation as a feared figure in New York's underworld. After he was released from prison, Wolf teamed up with his fellow Valley Mob friends Buck and El, promoting local party events in the city. Eventually, Wolf would make his way down south, promoting events in Atlanta and Miami. Wolf was making a name for himself, and people started paying attention. In 1993, Sean "Diddy" Combs, then known as Puffy, was starting his own record label, Bad Boy Records. Both Wolf and Diddy had strong ties to a lethal Harlem crew called the Same Gang. This and Wolf's reputation as a no-nonsense enforcer and security specialist caught the eye of Diddy. Diddy began hiring Wolf as part of his personal security detail during events and club appearances for Bad Boy artists. Wolf wasn't just muscle, he had tactical awareness, loyalty, and could navigate street politics with authority. He protected artists, diffused club beefs, and earned Diddy's trust fast. When newly signed artist Notorious B.I.G. released his debut album, Ready to Die, in 1995, Bad Boy Records exploded in popularity, and so did the risks. Wolf was promoted to head of security, overseeing not just Diddy's personal safety, but also the safety of his artists and the company's reputation during tours, parties, and album promotions. Wolf helped shield Diddy from multiple threats, including attempted extortions, fan chaos, and internal tensions between street crews tied to the music industry. One such occasion was the infamous East Coast versus West Coast rivalry that ended in bloodshed. Around the same time as Bad Boy Records was blowing up in the East Coast, Death Row Records was doing the same in the West Coast. Led by Suge Knight, Death Row dominated the music industry with artists like Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. The tension started over business, ego, and regional pride, but became personal and deadly when Suge Knight publicly dissed Diddy at the 1995 Source Music Awards.
All in the video, all on the record, dancing, come to Death Row.
The audience was stunned. The comments made by Suge Knight were aimed directly at Diddy, who was known for dancing in his artists' videos. From that moment on, the lines were drawn, and the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry had begun. Enter Big Jake Robles, known as Suge Knight's muscle and protector. He was a well-respected Piru Blood affiliate and carried serious weight in Death Row's street dealings. In September 1995, Jermaine Dupri was hosting a birthday party at the Platinum House nightclub in Atlanta, a city neutral in the East versus West war. Members of both Bad Boy's entourage and Death Row's crew were present at the event. Accounts differ, but most agree that an argument broke out between Diddy and Suge Knight inside the club, where Suge ended up slapping Diddy across the face and picking him up off his feet, threatening to kill him. Luckily for Diddy, Wolf intervened and an altercation ensued. What exactly happened is hearsay. All that is known is Wolf, Big Jake, Suge Knight, and Diddy walked outside the club, and an unknown gunman who was linked to Wolf's Valley mob crew walked up to Big Jake and shot him multiple times in the chest. Big Jake would later die from his injuries. The murder of Big Jake Robles wasn't just a violent encounter, it was a tipping point in the most deadly rivalry hip-hop has ever known. Though never charged, Wolf's name would always be tied to that fatal night, and it arguably helped trigger a chain of events that cost hip-hop its two greatest stars, Tupac and Biggie. Over time, Wolf became more than just a bodyguard. He was family. Diddy relied on him for discretion, street intel, and loyalty. Wherever you seen Diddy, you would see the big bad wolf, right behind, eager to attack. This kind of loyalty was rare, and it solidified their bond. On the night of December 27, 1999, Wolf accompanied Diddy, his then-girlfriend actress Jennifer Lopez, and newly signed Bad Boy artist Shine at a trendy upscale nightclub in Midtown Manhattan, Club New York. Reports suggest that Diddy got into a verbal altercation with another man in the club, Matthew Scar Allen, an alleged Brooklyn hustler. The argument started when Matthew Scar Allen called Jennifer Lopez a cheap stripper and threw money in her face. Wolf allegedly brandished a weapon, and that was when shots were fired. In the chaos, 3 club-goers were shot. All were innocent bystanders. The gun used in the shooting was a Glock 9mm, and eyewitnesses say Shine pulled the trigger, allegedly trying to defend himself or his crew. Others that knew the real story said Wolf was the real shooter. Wolf, Diddy, J-Lo, and Shine ran out of the club. They jumped into a Lincoln Navigator SUV and attempted to flee the scene. Wolf led the NYPD in a high-speed chase and eventually were pulled over, and all 4 were arrested. J-Lo was released immediately, and all charges were dropped. Diddy and Shine, however, were charged with attempted murder, assault, and gun charges. Wolf was never charged for the incident, but what came next would be the beginning of the end of Wolf and Diddy's friendship. Shine, real name Jamal Barrow, was just beginning his career in hip-hop. Wolf had a special relationship with Shine, even appearing in his music videos. He treated Shine like a little brother, mentoring him and making sure he stayed out of trouble. Wolf even took it personal when Diddy hired Johnny Cochran as his lawyer, but refused to pay for Shine's legal fees. In January 2001, Diddy was acquitted of all charges, but Shine was not so lucky. In June of that same year, Shine was found guilty of first-degree assault and possession of a firearm. Shine was sentenced to 10 years in prison. After the Club New York trial, Wolf moved to Atlanta. Atlanta was becoming the hub for hip-hop, drugs, and street money, and Wolf's reputation carried weight. Atlanta was also the headquarters of BMF, short for the Black Mafia family. By the early 2000s, BMF, run by brothers Demetrius Big Meech Flannery and Terry Southwest T. Flannery, was the most powerful drug empire in America. Around this time, Wolf met and became close with Southwest T and Big Meech. They would attend private parties and do business together. In 2001, Wolf introduced both brothers to his old pal Diddy. Big Meech and Diddy hit it off right away. Both were flashy, they loved to party, And of course, they both loved women, and lots of them. Now that Diddy had BMF for protection, he felt as if he didn't need Wolf anymore. This made Wolf realize that Diddy was really never his friend, and that Diddy only needed him when things got hot. In one occasion, Wolf even told Diddy that Big Meech wasn't as tough as he thought he was, and that he was going to prove it. Diddy, being the opportunist, let Wolf know that he had BMF now, and his services were no longer needed. On November 10, 2003, BMF held a party at Club Chaos in Atlanta's Buckhead district. Wolf would later show up and meet Big Meech in the VIP section of the club. There he would confront an ex-girlfriend, a stripper, who was with Meech's entourage. Witnesses reported seeing Wolf and the young female arguing, leading to Wolf grabbing and choking her, prompting Meech to intervene. Security forcibly removed Wolf from the club. After he was removed, Wolf came back and waited outside the club parking lot for over 3 hours, allegedly retrieving a gun and calling childhood friend and fellow Valley Mob member Lamont Riz Gertie for backup. As Meech and his bodyguard exited the club, Wolf and Riz ambushed them near Meech's Cadillac SUV. A verbal argument escalated into gunfire, ending with Big Meech getting shot in the buttocks as he and his bodyguard were running back into the club. Moments after the shooting, a friend of Wolf's from Brooklyn, who now was part of BMF, all thanks to Wolf putting him on with Big Meech, came outside the club to de-escalate the situation. As Wolf and Riz drew down their weapons, the man shot both Wolf and Riz execution style. Both Wolf and Riz died on the spot. As the old saying goes, it's always your own people. Big Meech and his bodyguard were charged with 2 counts of murder. Meech was arrested at Atlanta Police Headquarters after being identified by a witness. The case was later dismissed due to lack of evidence of intent. What a shame. Diddy was devastated. He reportedly cried at Wolf's funeral. Sources close to him said he felt responsible, since Wolf had always protected him and died while navigating a world they both once shared. According to street accounts and multiple interviews from ex-Bad Boy affiliates, Wolf believed Diddy owed him $300,000 for years of unpaid security work, street favors, and helping him beat the Club New York gun case. Some also say Wolf gave Diddy the $300,000 to help start Bad Boy Records in the beginning stages. Diddy, however, claimed these accusations were false, stating Wolf had delusion of grandeur. When Wolf died in 2003, rumors exploded that he was still waiting on that $300,000 and felt like Diddy had turned his back on him. Whether that debt played a direct role in the BMF beef is unclear, but it's a strong part of the legend. Wolf died feeling betrayed. Justin Dior Combs was born on December 30, 1993, to Diddy and his then-girlfriend, Misa Hilton, a respected fashion stylist and designer in the early 90s. Around this same time, Wolf was heavily involved in Diddy's life as his right-hand man. Wolf and Misa were rumored to have known each other before she officially got with Diddy. The Harlem and Bronx party circuits in the late 80s and early 90s were small worlds. Everyone knew everyone, especially in the hip-hop and fashion scenes. Multiple people have commented, anonymously or off-record, that Wolf was overly protective of Justin, even more than expected from someone working for Diddy. Some claimed Wolf would personally check in on Justin and make comments like, "That's my little man." Misa Hilton has never publicly addressed the rumor. In interviews, she's always described Diddy as a present, involved father to Justin. What do you think? Is Wolf the real biological father of Justin Combs, or just another legend lost in the shadows of hip-hop history? Let us know in the comments below. Anthony Wolf Jones lived in the shadows of kings, but he was never a pawn. He was the protector, the enforcer, the silent power behind one of hip-hop's most powerful dynasties. From the streets of Harlem to the nightclubs of Atlanta, Wolf built his name in blood, loyalty, and silence. He was a street legend who knew too much, moved too smart, and maybe trusted the wrong people at the end. Rest in power, Wolf. Your story wasn't just part of hip-hop, it was its hidden backbone. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications for more cool videos.
The Lost Documentaries.